My name's David Adams. I am an old friend of PAZUZU's. I've known her for a little over a decade, and we used to get into some shit. People would come to PAZUZU's house because they knew it was free reign. There was no rules, no anything that you had to abide by. You could piss in his carpet, you could smash a TV, you could hit somebody in the head with a beer bottle, you could throw a knife at his wall. It just didn't matter.
There is a belief that when we make a deal or cooperation with the forces of darkness, it is the same as selling our soul at a very cheap price. For all the benefits we may gain at the beginning will never be worth the price we must pay in the end. That is why it is said, don't ever make deals with the devil.
Today, we are going to discuss the mysterious case of PAZUZU ALGARAD.
A man who dedicated himself to the point of even changing his name to resemble that of a Babylonian demon. It is believed that not only did he dedicate himself to the devil, but he also performed sacrifices during every full moon. Let's get to the core of the video.
This is PAZUZU ALGARAD.
Alright, let's do it.
On August 3, 2009, the police received a report from a woman named Tarina Billings. Tarina told the police that she had a friend, a 30-year-old man named PAZUZU ALGARAD.
Sir, my friend PAZUZU admitted to taking someone's life, and to cover it up, he used cat litter and bleach.
The police immediately went to PAZUZU's residence. Is it true that there's a body here? May we take a look inside your house?
PAZUZU replied.
No, sir. There's no body here, but you don't need to come in, because my house is a mess. Since at that time the police did not have a search warrant, they had no choice but to leave without conducting further inspection. Moreover, there was only a single report from the witness, who came forward without strong evidence. On November 24, 2009, the police once again received a phone call from an unknown individual. However, this person reported the same thing that Tarina had previously told them.
He told the police, Sir, there's a man named PAZUZU who buried a body in the backyard of his house.
But the caller's statement was still not considered sufficient evidence, since it could have come from people who disliked PAZUZU or from someone with a grudge who deliberately spread rumors. But Tarina did not give up. Once again, she went to the police station and said,
Sir, this time I came with evidence. I brought a hidden recorder.
The police finally listened to a recording which a man, claimed to be PAZUZU, along with his friends, admitted that they had taken someone's life. Few months later, in February 2010, the police received another report from a woman named Stacy Carter. Stacy had a fiancé, a 37-year-old man named Joshua Wetzler. Their relationship was not going well, but suddenly, Stacy heard a rumor. She was told by others that Joshua had died, lost his life, and was buried in the backyard of a man named PAZUZU. The police immediately asked, PAZUZU. Eventually, the police returned to PAZUZU's house, but this time they brought a warrant and tracking dogs. When the police arrived and searched all the way to the backyard, they didn't find anything. In the end, they went home confused, wondering why there were so many rumors about PAZUZU, when there was actually nothing in his house. A year later, in November 2011, the police in North Carolina suddenly received a report about PAZUZU. It was reported that a man named PAZUZU had taken someone's life. But this time, the report came from a woman named Cynthia James, who was PAZUZU's mother. But at that time, the police felt there was still not enough evidence to determine whether this man was guilty or not. 3 years later, in October 2014, a man named Matthew Flowers appeared, and he said, "Sir, I am an old friend of a man named PAZUZU. So, sir, I want to report that back in 2009, my girlfriend, Dixie Ross, once received a phone call from a woman named Amber Birch. Amber Birch was PAZUZU's fiancée. My fiancée, Dixie, was asked to come to PAZUZU's house. Well, when Dixie arrived at PAZUZU's house, she was greeted by the sight of a man lying motionless on the floor of PAZUZU's home. PAZUZU and Amber looked at Dixie and said, "Hey, we need your help to bury him, or you're the one we'll bury." Dixie was terrified. She helped dig a grave together with Amber in the backyard of the house.
Then the police asked,
"Why are you only reporting this now?" Matthew replied, "Sir, back in 2009 I once reported it anonymously because I was afraid. But when I saw the situation, there seemed to be no further action from the police. This time I decided to report everything, including Dixie's 13-page statement, accompanied by photographic evidence of the man she buried, along with the grave." Then the police obtained a search warrant and proceeded to go to PAZUZU's house.
The search of PAZUZU's house.
On October 5, 2014, the police came to PAZUZU's house once again, this time carrying a search warrant. When the police entered, they felt like they had stepped into another world. The officers said there was a foul stench that pierced their noses. The walls and ceiling of the house were also covered with mold and decorated with graffiti and eerie drawings. In fact, in some parts of the house, the floor was no longer visible, and even more terrifying, Satanic symbols were written or carved using red ink. In that house, it wasn't only PAZUZU and his family living there, but also 15 cats, several dogs, snakes, and some other animals kept by PAZUZU. When the police checked the basement, the condition was just as bad. It was filled with trash and broken items, completely devastated. Finally, the police checked the backyard of the house, and they began to realize that the ground surface was very uneven. Some parts of the landscape looked suspicious, which they immediately started to dig up. And when it was uncovered, the police found human skeletons buried in shallow graves. The remains were immediately secured for further examination, and at that moment, PAZUZU and his partner, Amber Birch, were arrested and taken to the police station, and the following day, another woman was arrested. Crystal Nicole Matlock, 27 years old, was taken into custody because she was believed to be involved in the burial of one of the bodies. When was PAZUZU dangerous to others? So, PAZUZU had agoraphobia, but he was charismatic. His charisma might not have worked on some people, but he was very appealing to certain others. So, PAZUZU began attracting people who were like him, those who were not accepted by society, or those who were outcasts. And he invited these people to gather and party at his house, and not only as friends, but women in the same category were also attracted to PAZUZU. Unexpectedly, PAZUZU had the fiancées, Amber Birch and Crystal Nicole Matlock. PAZUZU welcomed people to stay for as long as they wanted. And the craziest part was, PAZUZU said that his house was a palace of freedom where there were no rules. One of PAZUZU's friends, named David Adams, said that in PAZUZU's house, people were allowed to pee on the carpet, destroy household items, throw knives, and hit others with beer bottles. Whatever they did, PAZUZU didn't care.
My name's David Adams. I am an old friend of PAZUZU's. I've known her for a little over a decade. And we used to get into some shit. People People would come to PAZUZU's house because they knew it was free reign. There was no rules, no anything that you had to abide by. You could piss in his carpet, you could smash a TV, you could hit somebody in the head with a beer bottle, you could throw a knife at his wall. It just didn't matter.
Inside the house, it was said that they did all sorts of strange things, drinking bird blood, using illegal drugs, and self-harming while intoxicated. They also carried out satanic rituals involving the sacrifice of rabbits during every full moon. PAZUZU took a live rabbit to the Yadkin River, split its chest open, and ate its heart raw. Back to October 5, 2014, when the search was conducted and the skeletons were found buried in shallow graves. Checked by the forensic team, the skeletons turned out to belong to two men, Joshua Frederick Wetzler, 37 years old, and Tommy Dean Welch, 36 years old. They had been reported missing since 2009, and forensic checks revealed that they had lost their lives to gunshot wounds to the head. After being interrogated, Amber Birch said that,
"Oh, well, Joshua's life was ended by PAZUZU. Even after he died, his body stayed in the house, lying on the floor for several weeks, until I eventually helped bury him in the backyard."
Amber also admitted that she was the one who ended Tommy's life and buried him in the backyard with PAZUZU's help. What's strange is that, even though they confessed, the motive was never disclosed by the police, so the public never knew why they did it. In Tommy's case, it was said that Amber picked him up at a gas station, brought him to PAZUZU's house, and as soon as Tommy sat down on the couch, Amber suddenly fired 2 bullets into the back of his head. From the stories that circulated while in prison, PAZUZU told a prison guard, "Sir, tonight is a full moon. I can't just stay still during a full moon, because I have to perform a ritual." It was said that he begged the prison guard that night, insisting that he had to make a sacrifice for the demon PAZUZU. And he said to the prison guard, "Sir, please, I have to make a sacrifice, because if I don't, he will come to destroy me." Things like this were not taken too seriously by the prison guards, because he was known to have a history of mental illness. It was believed that this was a manifestation of his schizophrenia. On October 28, 2015, it was discovered that around 3 a.m., PAZUZU had lost his life. It was recorded that his death was caused by a very deep wound on his left arm.
This morning, the Sheriff's Office was notified that PAZUZU ALGARAD had died while they're at Central Prison in Raleigh. Mr. ALGARAD was discovered shortly after 3 a.m. He was unresponsive and had a wound to one of his arms. Mr. ALGARAD was sent to the Adult Corrections Central Prison on a safekeeping order. That order has subsequently been sealed, so we cannot discuss any of the specifics contained within that order.
On March 9, 2017, Amber pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, armed robbery, and involvement in the killing of Joshua, and was sentenced to 30 years and 8 months, with a maximum of 39 years and 2 months in prison.
Accessory after the fact to first-degree murder and robbery with a dangerous weapon. Do you now personally plead guilty to the charges I just described?